I'm taking a quick study break to make a video about the philosophy of mind. And, I guess I'll just start off with, the reason. I made a video about this, like, 2 years ago, and, basically I just saw a debate between, John Searle and, B. Alan Wallace. B. Alan Wallace is a contemporary philosopher, and I think he's on his way to being a neuroscientist. And his claim to fame is, he's also a Buddhist monk. Or he was a Buddhist monk. His claim to fame is that he's written a lot of books about the relationship between Buddhism and science and how they can possibly work together. Hopefully better than they have been. Or more like, Wallace is pointing out particular discrepancies in Western intellectual bias that may limit our ability to understand the nature of consciousness. And basically, Wallace is saying, look, we have a inner science, a contemplative science, that has been going on for thousands of years, and it's made a lot of very interesting insights as to the nature of consciousness and what exactly it is that Western science could learn from. So why don't they just collaborate with, they being the West, Western scientists, collaborate with Eastern practitioners, meditators, and basically try to see an underlying universal nature of consciousness that spans across East and West. So basically an East and West dialogue. Meditation, an experience, subjective experience of consciousness, correlated and working with scientific investigation. So it's basically, science and meditation. That's where it comes out to. And he's a very big proponent of that. He's written a lot of books. Searle is a long-standing, very famous name in the philosophy of mind subject. He has raised some very critical points about free will and the nature of consciousness. He notably has argued a lot of different, not argued different theories, but argued against many strange contemporary philosophies about the nature of mind that he saw was maybe contradictory, maybe didn't make sense ultimately. So he's a very loud voice in the philosophy of mind subject. I guess you could say beyond Wallace, though he's been around, is more up and coming these days. So I just watched the debate, and what it came down to was Wallace saying, okay, so we have this history of studying the mind scientifically, and up until 100 years ago, roughly, we had an appreciation, at least by some scientists, particularly William James, to the subjective exploration of consciousness. And what all that really means is literally the experience of being a conscious being and exploring that. And basically, I don't think he was too familiar with Buddhism. I know he was aware of it and thought pretty positively of it. But he basically argued that let's create some kind of inner science that is correlated with the observational, empirical, physical reality of the mind and brain. So we have this mind, and somehow we have to understand how it emerges, how it exists, what it is. So, that's where he kind of left off, but unfortunately after he passed away, the philosophy of mind took a turn for completely ignoring subjective experience because it was unmeasurable, and instead relying upon more empirical, observational, physical realities. And Wallace argues it hasn't gotten us anywhere. We still don't know what consciousness is. We may know some little facets here and there with neuroscience, but we still don't know what consciousness is. What is the experience of having a self, of I-ness, of being right here? Science can't seem to explain it. And some of the implications in what Wallace has discovered when he looks to Eastern philosophy in his own practice is that consciousness is something that goes beyond the physical reality. Now, these are some things that he's been arguing. He didn't really bring it up too much in the debate, actually. He kind of just stuck to, look, Western science has this bias for the physical reality, and it won't look at subjective experience, but it can learn a lot from it. So yeah, he doesn't really mention that too much. One of his books that he talks a lot about this is called Hidden Dimensions, and I do recommend it. I haven't finished reading it, but I do intend on finishing it. I'm actually going to probably order it soon, either that or Wallace's new book. While Searle, on the other hand, has argued that, okay, consciousness is not some other thing. It is a aspect of nature, just like biology is, and we will one day understand it, just as we understand life, just as we understand the biological mechanisms. What generates life? What is life composed of? And what are its origins? And he believes, at least, that we have understood that sufficiently. And the next thing that scientists are tackling is mind. What is consciousness? What is the mind? And he believes that, yes, eventually we will understand it mechanically and biologically. It doesn't mean it's reducible. I thought this is a very interesting point. Consciousness is not reducible, this reductionist thing that a lot of people accuse science of, and which science does tend to do. Scientists do tend to do more like it, is reduce a higher order into a lower order, saying, well, this really is just that. At a technical, what's it called again? At a mechanical level, yes, that's how you understand something. You try to break it down. But ontologically, as an argument, as a philosophical assertion that, all I really am are my neurons, that is ignoring the nature of reality's higher orders. Or in other words, saying, as Searle was saying, that water is just the molecules vibrating and interacting in this particular way. Well, that's true. H2, that is what water is made of. Water is H2O. But you lose something. You actually lose the functional order or layer of reality by just cutting off the top. You cut off the top to understand it, but then you don't assume that the higher orders don't exist simply because they're made up of something lower. Everything's made up of something else. So, this is what they've talked about. More so, John Searle talked about this component, and Wallace mostly talked about just having Western science open up to Buddhism and open up to contemplative science, because he believed, well, okay, inner experience, it's a messy thing, and many people didn't believe we'd had any real tools to experience or explore our subjective experience of mind and of being in any way, really. We didn't really have a less murky way to navigate that. But, come along Eastern meditation, and now suddenly we have a way to navigate the mind. And it's true, we do. So the one discrepancy I noticed between them is that Wallace was saying this, and Searle kept saying, well, that's all well and good if you want to feel good, and meditation is maybe a great science of feeling happier and being a better person. But that doesn't mean it's going to tell you what is consciousness. But what can tell you what is consciousness is neuroscience, because they're making great progress, and they are. We're making a lot of progress in neuroscience. We can now tell you that different creatures see different ways. Cats see color differently, as Searle was saying, or we can understand color blindness more. But again, Wallace kept coming back to, that's all well and good, but as to the fundamental nature of consciousness, we have no idea what it is. As a critique, I know I understand what he was saying, but I think he was coming across a little too aggressively, so it sounded like, since we don't know it, that's a bad thing, because Searle was getting that impression, and I can understand why he would. So Searle's response, of course, was, well, because we don't know it, that's good, that means we have a lot to explore, that's great. So I guess I would like to end with, Wallace is saying, there's a lot about consciousness we don't understand. We would do better if we began to use meditation as a way to navigate and try to get a good clues to where to start exploring with neuroscience. And I think Searle would agree with him. And in the end, that's how the debate ended. It was very agreeable. You should check it out.